Hayden. I'm here to talk to you again about primary and secondary sources. Last week we went over a brief introduction to that. This is one of those skills that gets better with practice, so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to go over what primary and secondary sources are, and we're going to practice again. The more familiar you are, the more you see it, the more comfortable you will feel using these sources. So that's what we're going to do. After the lesson today, you will be able to sort primary and secondary sources into which category they belong to. Remember, a primary source is created at the time that the event is happening. So if it's happening right now and I take a picture of it, that's primary. If it's happening right now and I write it down in a note, that's a primary source. If I am writing a report, it's happening right now, I'm watching it, I read a report, that's a primary source. It's happening right now, I'm creating a document or a piece of evidence of what is happening. A speech is another great example. A secondary source is telling what's happened in the past. So if I have heard about an amazing experience that PTO created for students 4 years ago, and right now I'm going to write about it and tell somebody about it, that happened in the past, and I wasn't there for that. So that would be a secondary source. Textbooks are another secondary source because it's telling about something else that they weren't there for. They often talk about people or experiments that have happened in the past, so those would be secondary sources. Primary means first, it's happening right now. Secondary means it's happened in the past. We're going to watch a quick video. There are not any words to this video, but I will go ahead and read it with you so that you are able to understand it, and I might even pause and chat with you about it. Primary source. A primary source tells you about an event and is from the time of that event. Example of primary sources are speeches, photographs, letters, Here are more examples of speeches, photographs, and letters. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is a speech, a picture of Native Americans is a photograph, and it looks like a letter written from somebody in history, perhaps like the Oregon Trail or the Santa Fe Trail. Secondary source. A secondary source tells you about an event, but it's from a time after the event. A secondary source usually talks about primary sources. Some examples are textbooks, magazines, encyclopedias. Can you tell the difference? Is a speech a primary or a secondary source? What do you think, fourth graders? That's right, it's a primary source. It's happening at the time. A speech happens when it is given. Again, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., his famous I Have a Dream speech. Textbooks, primary or secondary? I hope you said secondary. Textbooks are written after the events. This makes them secondary. They often talk about things from the past. Got it? Yeah. Fourth graders, you will now practice this skill. You will go to the student template and you will sort different sources. Remember, primary sources are created at the time the event is happening. So if I send a text right now, that's a primary source. If I write an email to your adult at home, that's a primary source. I'm doing it right now. I'm telling them what's going on. Social media is another great example of primary sources. Tweets, Facebook posts, it's happening right now. I'm creating it, I'm writing it down. All right, do your very best, and I know that you will do a fantastic job. Thanks, fourth graders.